is Wink Tracks the Tropics, powered by the Weather Authority.
When the tropics are active, timing is everything. The Weather Authority is keeping you prepared.
The latest update did come in from the National Hurricane Center. Helene moving north-northeast. Winds have increased up to 90 miles per hour.
Keeping you informed.
It's now 170 miles northwest of us. And as we had mentioned, this is a major Cat 4 hurricane. This is going to have major landfall implications.
Southwest Florida has seen its fair share of storms in the past few years.
We are leaving immediately after this because it is not safe. You're starting to see some of these debris, sticks flying up and out, and it's one of the reasons why Sanibel is evacuated. It clearly is not safe out here.
But our slice of paradise has bounced back in ways we'd never expect.
It was tough. We had each other, and that's a good thing.
I wouldn't have made it without Marianne. We're going to make it, though. We're going to make it.
Wink News has been there with you every step of the way, and that won't change.
Yes, we avoid the worst part of the storm, but the wind field's growing and the pressures are deepening. We're going to feel more of that influence on the back end with the surge.
From forecast cones to important safety reminders, the Weather Authority has you covered. You're watching Wink Tracks the Tropics. Hello, and welcome to Wink Tracks the Tropics. I'm Wink's Weather Authority Val Simpson, and we have Tropical Storm Melissa has now formed in the Caribbean. This is as of the 11 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. We're going to have to talk about this today in today's episode. There's a lot of uncertainty still in terms of the path, the track that this might take. And obviously, intensity is another thing that we can discuss in today's episode. I want to go ahead and punch the panel right off the bat. Guys, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Very good, yes. I mean, we're talking about and we're going to be discussing Melissa. We've been actually tracking this storm for the last week, the past week, and then the beginning since yesterday as well. We brought it up and we were just waiting for it. We were waiting for it to become a tropical storm. I know that right now areas like Jamaica need to be watching this, areas like Haiti, the Dominican Republic. I would dare to even say Eastern Cuba, perhaps Puerto Rico as well. But as far as Florida, let's get that cleared and out of the way. What does Florida have to look forward to?
I think we have to watch this closely in terms of what exactly is going to happen, which cold front's going to pick it up, but in terms of any actual impacts for us at the moment, nothing whatsoever. Just something that we're keeping an eye on over the next 5-10 days. This system, as we show that track, eventually you're going to notice that it's going to take a long time to move the next 100 miles, basically from where it is now to where it's going to go by Sunday, which is not that far, basically near Haiti, near the southeastern corner of Cuba, possibly even the Dominican Republic as well. If you were watching this morning on Wink News this morning, we were talking about the steering currents and how there wouldn't be much of a steering current pattern, which is always tricky for some of these systems because they basically slow down. They're very hard to track because they stay pretty much in a pretty similar area for quite some time. And we're just going to have to watch and see what steering currents pick it up and what will cause it to move. Current thinking is a number of cold fronts that move off the state of Florida would pick it up, move it east of the state and into the Atlantic. And if that really is that scenario that comes true, we wouldn't have to worry about anything whatsoever. In terms of it being a Gulf storm, looks far less likely. This would be moving into the Gulf. Far more likely, this is moving well east of the state of Florida, possibly even east of the Bahamas as well. The others weigh in currently, but right now I think Florida, Halloween decorations, giant pumpkins, giant skeletons, whatever Frankensteins you have in the front yard are looking just fine, and you don't have to move them anytime soon.
Yeah, Val, what do you say you show us that forecast track? Show us the forecast cone from National Hurricane Center, and then we can chit-chat a little bit about it.
Let's go ahead. I'll start with that. Guys, so here, satellite of what's Tropical Storm Melissa. As you can see, it's much more, it shows a lot more improvement than the past few days, what we were looking at. And I'm going to get to right what Josh said. Let's look at that track because it's very interesting.
Yeah, it looks pretty good compared to the last couple of days. Like this morning, it looks exactly the same. Just the National Hurricane Center was waiting for that defined surface circulation to develop. That's the big thing I think we were watching all morning long. We were waiting for them to pull the trigger and go, okay, here's a defined surface circulation, but didn't want to jump in there for a second that we've had wind speeds in this system over 40 miles per hour since about this time yesterday. So the storms have really been getting going for the last 24 hours. I really wonder what the delay was. I know it was the dry air at the surface, but that was the big thing that delayed that surface circulation from developing. And I'll let you go on from there, Val.
Thank you, Zach. So here you guys, you're seeing right now, this is the track currently that we have for the next couple of days. Still is a tropical storm. However, as we move into the weekend, it will gain strength, potentially becoming a low cat hurricane. They are forecasting to become a Cat 1 by Saturday into Sunday as well. But notice how interesting, it's a one big ball at this point, the track. It's not really, it doesn't look much as like a cone at all. And that is because there is still some uncertainty in terms of the path that it might take. So we need to consider that. If we look at the spaghetti models from the different computer models from the different, here, let's see if we can punch that in. There we go. It's showing up. It's still showing that there's a chance that it's going to make that turn earlier rather than later. However, some models are still suggesting that it might spend a little bit more time in the Caribbean. Now, that could be a little bit dangerous because that would give it the potential to continue to strengthen, curve later, probably closer or over Cuba, instead of Haiti and the Dominican Republic like we're seeing here. So basically, there are mainly two scenarios. We're going to talk about that. And this is kind of what Zach was saying at the beginning of the episode, depending on where those fronts or the ride that the system might take. There's two opportunities to do so. So here's Melissa, and there's a possibility that the jet stream is going to push down the first front, the first scenario. And what this is going to do is the front's going to push, the jet stream will push down the front is going to tug at the system, and it's going to impulse the system to the northeast. That would be the first case. Always remember that the jet stream is protecting the state of Florida in conjunction also with some wind shear as well, because it's surrounded by wind shear for the next couple of days. Now, this front potentially could be the front that we'll see later in the week. But if it misses this ride and it decides, the system decides that it wants to linger a little bit longer in the Caribbean, like some models are suggesting, look at what's going to happen to that. It's going to move a little bit more west. It's going to grow a little bit more in strength. And then the jet stream, same thing, will push down the front. The front will tug at that system, and then it will take it north-northeast. Regardless, it's going to be headed north-northeast. It's not going to come close to Florida. It will not be entering the Gulf. But these are the two potential scenarios. However, what does this mean for the areas and the locations that we were looking at? If it moves earlier and the first scenario happens, this could bring tons of rain, heavy rainfall for areas like Haiti and Dominican Republic. It has very mountainous terrain. We did talk about this yesterday. This could be life-threatening type of flooding in this area if the first scenario plays out. If the second scenario plays out, it's going to be staying in very warm waters. We talked about the sea surface temperatures and also the ocean heat content in the Caribbean right now that could help strengthen and fuel these systems. So if the second scenario plays out, it's not looking very good for the eastern part of Cuba either. And it looks like the Bahamas might not have to, be, I don't think it's going to play out in the second scenario. I think that it's more likely that we might see that first scenario. Guys, what do you think? Let's punch the panel back up. In terms of odds, what are your guys' thoughts?
I want to go back to the cone graphic. That's the most important graphic. If you can pop that up, Val. And I do want to do a little explanation with that real quickly to kind of point both of those scenarios you brought up together. So there it is, 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Forecast to strengthen and continue that one more time to play out the full graphic. There we go. So I know when you're watching this and our viewers who are watching this, you see that the white icons are placed what it looks like to be in a very organized way, where it would be Wednesday, then Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday, and then Sunday. But based on the models and based on some of the model plots, if Melissa doesn't get picked up by the first cold front, it will actually be pushed back farther to the south, and then it would move back southwest before it moves a little bit farther to the west. So you might have not like a loop-de-loop, but you might have a movement where those white lines, where Friday, it might be closer to Haiti than it is on Saturday and Sunday. So kind of keep that in mind. It could go far north. If it misses the first front, the system itself may be pushed back west and southwest, which is why those lines are drawn the way they are. And go to the models, the next graphic you had there, and you kind of see that's what the National Hurricane Center is thinking based on that graphic and where the plots are, that they're kind of in between, whether the GFS is picking up, having go out to the Atlantic, or see those two left lines, those two white lines there? That's kind of the scenario where the National Hurricane Center is adding that in as a possible scenario there and trying to encapsulate all the potentials within that one cone, where you can see by today, tomorrow, Friday, that system heading closer to Haiti. But then if it gets missed by the first cold front, you see how it jets farther west and southwest and heads towards Cuba. They're kind of including those scenarios within that cone graphic. So the way we kind of have that list right now makes it a little bit confusing, but I think that's what the potential path is of this system. And I'll let Josh know, she got to weigh in as well. That's why it looks complex. That's why it's one giant area of red. And I think all possible scenarios, this is 5 days of being very close to the mountainous terrain. Depends how large it gets. I think no matter what, it could bring a lot of rain to the Dominican Republic, to Haiti, possibly even southeastern Cuba. It only is going to be heading towards the Bahamas if there's enough of a leeway between both fronts that it could jet farther off towards the west. But it may just hang out there. We have seen systems do that before. If there are no steering currents, it could sit there for a very long time until something picks it up.
Yeah, I did want to bring that up, exactly what Zach just said. The reason why that cone looks so balloony, as me and Val called it earlier, is not only because of a couple different possibilities, but because it is literally going to sit there for quite a while before it makes its decision, and not really makes a decision, but before something picks it up. So that's kind of why it looks pretty funky there, and that is why we're also probably going to be talking about this for quite a while.
Yeah, it's important to note that the forecast cone it doesn't look like that just because there's a bit of uncertainty in the forecast track. The forecast cone is actually a series of circles, and each of those circles will always be the same size depending on how far out the forecast is. That first circle is a certain size, the second circle, the third, the fourth, the fifth, representing each day of the forecast. So because this is going to be a slow-moving system, it kind of just balloons out because those circles, they're not really moving anywhere, at least forwards, right? But they're still going to grow in size because as you get further down the line in the forecast, they kind of make these circles the size based off of a 2/3 chance of uncertainty, right? So 2/3 of the time, based on historical averages, the storm will be somewhere in that circle. So obviously, the chances of it being in the circle are going to be better sooner in the forecast because there's, better confidence, right? So the circle's smaller. But as you get further down in the forecast, that confidence is not quite as large, right? Historically, it goes outside of those circles, so the circle becomes bigger. Therefore, because you have a slow-moving system that may end up stalling out, you have this, gross-looking balloon thing, which I know is not very appealing to the eye, but unfortunately, that's the setup that we're left with.
Guys, and also, like we have been saying, it's going to be days. It's going to be sitting in these warm waters. It's going to give the opportunity for the system to grow in intensity. Yesterday, when we were looking at the possible intensity from the model guidance, it was going to either stay a tropical storm or maybe a Cat 1. And then today, some models were saying that it could potentially even get to a Cat 2 hurricane. What are your thoughts on that?
Depends on where it's sitting and where it's tracking. Notoriously, models kind of underdo it. I think the stronger models actually had it continuing to move, even moving over the landmass and moving northeast, away from Haiti, away from the Dominican Republic, so kind of keep that in mind. The longer the system sits over the water temperatures, the longer it's going to cool the water temperatures. Again, hurricanes, these areas of low pressure feed on the warm water temperatures. And if they're over warm water temperatures for quite some time, eventually they're feeding on the warm water itself, so the water begins to cool off. There's a lot of turbulence that goes on with the winds of these tropical systems, that there's upwelling, there's downwelling, there's movement of the water, and that's going to be cooling the water temperatures off as well. So if it does sit there for a long time, some would think that it might have more time to strengthen, but based on physics as well, it could start reacting against itself because it's already sitting over water that's already turning over already rushing, already turbulent, and if it's like that for quite some time, it could allow it to eventually even start to weaken. Notoriously, we saw that with Hurricane Dorian back in 2019, sat over the Bahamas. It came close to the Bahamas as a Category 4 hurricane. Once it sat over the Bahamas for quite some time, it began to weaken because it just began feeding on water that was already overturned and already cooled off. So kind of think that into the process as well over the next 5, 6, 7 days.
Guys, this is an interactive platform. We have some folks that are sending us some messages on Facebook and on YouTube. I want to read a Facebook message that we got. This is from Casper Gregory. He says, "Good morning, team." He says, "Forward speed in the low levels kept the surface trough ahead of the mid-level circulation. That's why we saw delayed development until today." Is that right? He wants to...
So at that point, you're looking at a trough that's down in the Caribbean, I'd assume, not the one that we're discussing that's going to be moving across the southeastern United States. So Casper's talking a little bit more about the development of the system down in the Caribbean and some of those lower level and mid-level, factors that were kind of influencing it. And what he's saying is that now things have kind of caught up to each other. There's a little bit less shear down there. The system isn't moving quite as quickly. That's why you were able to see that center of circulation begin to develop, take shape, and now we have a tropical storm on our hands.
Yeah, like we mentioned yesterday, the system was moving far too fast for its possible development. And now that it's slowed down, I think it was down to 13 miles per hour this morning. It was moving at 20 miles per hour yesterday, 25 miles per hour on Monday morning. So it definitely has slowed down, which allowed the system to finally organize above itself. And there's also some more moisture now feeding into it, even from the west. For the longest time, western and central the Caribbean was actually quite dry. And you can still see that's why all the rain is still east of where the center is, because there's still dry air moving into it, but it's beginning to saturate because it's becoming more organized and it begins to stack up above itself, which is what tropical systems need to do to develop even further.
Joey Santos says, "Shoo, away, far away." So Joey does not want, maybe Joey has a cruise coming up or something. I don't know.
Hey, I'm right in your boat, my friend. Literally.
Maybe he's writing, yeah, we'll see. There's more messages coming in from Facebook. This is from John Connor. "Do you think this is our last major storm, possible hurricane for the season?"
I don't think this will be a major storm, hopefully not even a major hurricane whatsoever, but it might just stay at Category 1. To answer that question, is it our last one of this season? We mentioned this, I think it was late last week, guys, that there's still 40 days left of the Atlantic hurricane season. We could still have a couple more develop in early November. We could still always have one more in November itself. So, I won't say that this is the last one we will be tracking, but I doubt this becomes a major hurricane whatsoever. Should only strengthen the Category 1 strength just because of how slow it's going to be moving, and because of all the factors that are going to be upon it as well, with all the fronts that are going to be coming close to it, sharing it apart from time to time, and eventually trying to pick it up and move it into the Atlantic. Josh, Oceana, I'll let you weigh in on that as well, because I don't think we'll see anything too strong with this one in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to depend a little bit on what it does, right? Because you have to think, if it does stall out, and let's say it does start to move a little bit further off towards the west, I think that would be the chance that it has to become a little bit stronger. Again, like Zach mentioned, there is a lid on this thing. If it were to stay more so east and kind of take that northern pass right into Hispaniola, it's very mountainous. You're likely not going to, have enough time for it to strengthen. I think the only opportunity that it has to get a little bit stronger than that is if it does take a little bit more of a westward track and tries to hang out in that western Caribbean warm waters for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also want to say with the question that was asked, this is the only thing that's on our radar right now. So for the near future, this is the number one thing that we're watching. Like Zach had mentioned, it's probably not going to be the last named storm that we see this season. However, for the near future, this is the one that we're really only thing that's that we're keeping our eyes on.
Michael Yancey is watching us from Facebook. He says, "Hey y'all, happy Tuesday to you."
Happy Tuesday, my friend.
Yes, he wanted to leave a comment for us. Let's see, we have a few more comments coming in. Let's take a look. Let's see if there's anybody on YouTube also. This is from Facebook. It's from Jared Parker. He says, "Do you believe it will travel more west before it makes a turn north?"
I mean, it's definitely a possibility. That's what we've been mentioning. There are two scenarios, and the one of which is the Euro, which has proven to be pretty good this season and historically. So the fact that the Euro is favoring that westward motion is definitely something that we're thinking about, and it is definitely possible that it takes that more westward path. But again, there are a series of fronts coming. We've been saying it all morning. So if it's not picked up by this one, there's an even stronger one on its way. I'm looking ahead to that one for Halloween. And that one would be the more likely to take it to the northeast if it did shift to the west. But, you know, it does still have that other option where this weekend it could sweep up to the north.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about steering patterns, there's just not a lot in the Caribbean right now. I mean, it's pretty much just like dead air, right? There's not a whole lot of movement going on out there, nothing to direct any movement as well. The only really two players that we have in terms of steering is this front later this week, which again is the weaker one, all right? You have some of the models like the GFS, the American model, that thinks, hey, this is good enough. That one picks it up, moves it off towards the north and east sooner. Then, like Oceana mentioned, you've got a few more models like the Euro. I think the Canadian model is also more so on board with saying that first front, it just ain't strong enough. But pretty much everyone is on board with saying that second front that moves through next week is strong enough, and it does produce a lot of wind shear. That's a solid steering mechanism right there, which will likely prove to be our saving grace here in the state of Florida. And again, we're still going to continue to monitor that because the timing of all of that is also very important.
Yeah, Josh and I had mentioned this on a different graphic that we had this morning, focusing on the two different scenarios, that there is just a massive void of steering currents. High pressure is far east. We showed that in that graphic. That's in the Atlantic, far off towards the east. And then the jet is mainly across North Florida and Georgia, and the fronts are coming from that jet, passing off to the south and moving into the Caribbean. So based on the lack of steering currents, that's what is allowing this system to kind of do whatever it wants to do. I mean, models are very ragged and all over the place and chaotic, but simply speaking, they're really not that far off from each other. I mean, we're talking anywhere from 50 to 75 miles where, yes, we want to see the sensor very close together, always organized. But when you're talking this movement, this slow of a system over 5 days of barely moving, it's going to wobble all over the place. It's going to wobble all over the Northern Caribbean, and it's going to take some time for models to truly understand how strong the fronts are, how strong this system gets, and I know we'll see some better agreement in these model plots that you see on your screen, because it looks very much like we decided to hire a preschooler to come on screen and just draw some lines for us this morning.
Melissa is messy.
Yeah.
Messy.
Melissa's messy.
Come on.
Guys, we have
Outside of the lines.
There's some really nice folks on YouTube right now that Tim is watching us from YouTube. He says, good morning, team. We have Mike watching us as well. He says, good morning, Southwest Florida. Andy is watching us as well. He says, good morning, Wink team. So all those hellos for you guys. I think we have another comment coming in from Facebook right now. This is from Zach Ringer. He says, what are the chances of it coming towards Florida?
I think the chances have gotten lower and lower, and I'll let Oceana and Josh weigh in as well. I only say that because since really even late last week, when this system was first developing, before it was even an invest area, before you even had true model plots, there were possibilities in the long-range ensembles of the European that may have had it move into the Gulf. But as we've added day, as we've added more data, as we've added more information from the invest area, now as we're getting more information with the hurricane hunters flying in it today, they haven't flown in it yet, it looks like that scenario of it moving into the Gulf has become very, very, very low, and it was already on the low side. You know, Josh, I'll let you weigh in on that as well, just because I do think that that chance of it moving into the Gulf almost near zero now, because of how many cold fronts are moving across the state. We have the first one moving on Thursday, which might pick this up, another weak one on Monday, but an even stronger one that moves through next Wednesday, which means we could be tracking Melissa for quite some time too.
Yeah, we'll tell you like it is, right? If we think there's a somewhat decent of a chance that something could impact us, we would tell you, and we tell you over and over again. With this specific situation, there's a lot of things working in our favor. which is why we're leaning towards the side of, yeah, there's likely not going to be impacts here. That doesn't mean we're just going to flat out ignore it, right? The good news is, seems like we're going to have plenty of time to keep our eyes on this. If there was any sort of drastic change, we'd be the first ones to let you know.
Yeah, and I really do want to reiterate, because I know folks get really nervous when they see a storm in the Caribbean, but the time of year says a lot with this one, and that's something that every storm is different, but especially with this one. We are seeing this one at the near end of October. If this was in the beginning of September, things might be a little different, but again, we have a sort of protection in the form of these fronts that's bringing a lot of wind shear, and as we know, that's detrimental to storms. We've got a nice blocking pattern that is helping to protect us. So this isn't something that is going to be like every storm you've seen in the Caribbean. As it is later November or later October, season is getting a little bit closer to the end, so you just have to think about the time of year and how we do see some more cold fronts right now.
Yeah, and in terms of that point too, the years that we have had the Caribbean systems that move towards the Gulf, we have had far less cold fronts. I even was looking into 2005 when we had Wilma. We didn't have as many fronts moving in across the entire southeast in 2005 in October as opposed to what we are having right now. So like Oceana just mentioned, because we have the sheer number of fronts that have been moving through the state of Florida for at least the last 2, 3, and even 4 weeks. I recall having that first week one in late September. That's a rarity, and that has to be taken into account to keep blocking the systems and pushing them away from this state. So unlike the years past, we are seeing way more fronts and even faster clip of fronts coming through than traditionally we would have that would bring any system even close to the state of Florida. So that's some good news right there for us.
Guys, we have a comment coming in from Facebook. It's from Casper Gregory. He says that he would like to know more about the high pressure ridge and how it plays a role.
It's not playing much of a role at all, Casper. I'm going to let you know that that is far to the east. It's far in the eastern Atlantic. If it was playing a role, this system would not be slowing down. So because it's not playing a role, I know we're running out of time here this morning, but because it's not really playing a role, it's why this system is going to be stalling out. It's why it's going to be slower moving as we head over the next 5 days and forecast to stay south of Haiti between now and basically Sunday into Monday. And I'll let Josh weigh in a second on that too, just because of how far away that high is. Traditionally, it has played a role, had systems speed up, but right now not playing a role whatsoever as that ridge is very far away from where the system is right now.
Yeah, I agree with Zach wholeheartedly there. Again, when you're talking about Caribbean systems, sometimes that Atlantic high, the Bermuda high, it just doesn't have that same factor. Final thoughts, at least from my end of things. Again, just because it has a name now doesn't mean that there's any more of a risk to us or that we're any more concerned. All right, again, we're continuing to monitor. We'll continue to update you on here, on air. We've got you covered. Again, we love when we can say the concern meter is low for Southwest Florida. It's exactly what we can still say today.
And final thoughts from me, National Hurricane Center going to have the hurricane hunters flying into it later on today. Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt, of course, will be on TV on Wink News. You can stream us on winknews.com to get all that information, because once we get the data from the hurricane hunters flying into that system, gathering the profile both before, in, and around that system, you bet it's going to have an impact on what the models do. It might have the models come closer together in better agreement. It'll be interesting to see once we start getting that data in, and we'll have that as early as this afternoon. And I know Matt will have it later on today and even into tonight's model runs from the National Hurricane Center.
And Oceana, I know that before we got on, we were looking at some of the hurricane watches and who was under a hurricane warning. Can you let us know? Because we know Florida's in the clear, but there's some folks that need to be watching this carefully.
So real quickly, if you've got any trips this weekend, pay attention to these names. We've got Haiti and Dominican Republic under a hurricane watch, which means that hurricane conditions are expected or possible in the next 48 hours. Wait, is that right?
Possible, yeah.
Possible, okay.
72, yeah.
Possible in 72. And then we've got Haiti under, or we've got, what did I say? Haiti and Dominican Republic under hurricane watches. And then we've got tropical storm watches for, what did I say earlier, Val? We were just talking about this.
It was Jamaica.
Jamaica.
Yeah.
Jamaica has tropical storm watches, and then Haiti and Dominican Republic have hurricane watches.
Very good. So there we go. We have all that information out. Jared Parker says, thank you. We're getting a thank you from Zach Ringer, also from Facebook. Casper wants to continue the conversation. He says, for long-term Southwest Florida residents, Melissa is not a Wilma 2.0. So he just wants to make sure that they. I mean, he's a weather advocate. He's a meteorology advocate.
And if he's
Casper
such a weather
Gregory.
advocate, I know Oceana will have the latest in 27 minutes on Week News at
Tune
noon.
in at
She'll have all the
noon.
latest information
Guys, yes,
then.
we want to invite.
So
I
got to
know.
tease ahead to our newscast coming up in the next 20 minutes as well. So we're always working here at Wink, just because we might not be on track in the tropics from 11 to 11:30. We have lots of newscasts, so you can stay informed all day long. And of course, Greg will have the latest on Wink News at 3 o'clock today as well.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, my panel, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm sorry that we have to cut the time short. I know that everybody wanted to keep on talking, but we'll catch you tomorrow at 11 o'clock like we do every day, Monday through Friday. Ciao.